It's all yours.
I want to welcome everybody tonight and thank you for coming to this another special edition of Tulsa Night Riders. We're excited about tonight. I do have a few announcements I wanted to pass on to you. One is, don't forget that in May, I think it's the 6th or 7th, they're going to be having a conference. The OWFI will be having a conference, and they do a pretty good job with that. I don't know if you're going to be able to join electronically this year. Last year it was all virtual, but I suspect you will be able to. And it was a good time last year that I went to, and I really enjoyed it. That's where I first got connected with Casey, and it was a good time. Also want to just remind people that if you know of anybody that wants to join us, let us know, or bring them along, better yet, so that they can all be a part of what's happening. Wanted to tell you a little bit about next month. Pretty excited about this. We are going to be starting a new feature or a program with Tulsa Night Riders, and it's going to involve those who are interested to stay after the meeting to bring 3 or 5 pages of their work that they may be struggling with and exchange it with somebody else who's got 3 to 5 pages, and you critique each other. And we're going to be having a panel on with Rex and Carolyn and Bill Letterman on just how to give gentle critiques and how to receive them so that you aren't upset because this is your baby, that somebody is maybe wanting to tweak for you or help make it better. And I understand completely, because the first one I went through, I was offended. And you know, you just got to grow some thick skin and put on your big boy pants and move on and say, they're trying to help me make it better. And it's a real good thing. And I'm really excited about that, because the whole purpose, I believe, of Tulsa Night Riders is to help riders. And we can't all do it all ourselves, because we can get stuck and we can't see past this one tree or this one bush. And we need somebody else to come in and look at it and say, you know, if you did this right here, it would really shine. And when we do that, it makes everybody better. So we're going to have that panel. I'm talking about it. And after the meeting, we're going to go ahead and have our first critique session. So for the next meeting, go ahead and bring your 3 to 5 pages you've got, or if you'd rather wait and see how it happens, or if you're not ready to even go that far, that's fine too. So it's just for those who want to stay after and have some sort of input on their writing. I know the hardest ones for me, hardest 5 pages for me, are the first 5 of a book, you know, because if you don't grab them there, you've lost them for the rest of the book. And that's really hard. In fact, the book I'm working on now, I think I've written the first few pages close to a dozen times. And I'm probably not done yet. So also, I believe that we have to, do we have any new guests? I think we do. We have Cheryl Kay, we have the other Cheryl, and we have a Roxy. Would you care to introduce yourselves? Tell us what you write.
You'll need to unmute your line.
Hi, I'm Cheryl McKay, and I am a complete rookie. I am about halfway through working on a historical fiction.
That's awesome. That's just what we write. Yay. Awesome. That's fantastic. Glad to
I was
meet you,
gonna say
Cheryl.
she'll be in good company, won't she?
Well, that's yet to be determined.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other Cheryl, and I'm really happy to be here. I've been writing forever for work, and I also do it for pleasure. And I'm actually been looking for some more community. So found my way to you guys and was really happy, like someone said earlier, that that they're on Facebook. It was very inviting to jump in tonight. I was happy that tonight was the monthly meeting. So I'm really pleased to be here. I write a little bit of everything: poetry, short fiction, and writing a historical fiction pieces like the other Cheryl.
That's fantastic. Welcome. And you will find a great community here. These are great people.
Hi, I'm Roxy, and I write historical fiction mostly, and I have one book out. And in the process of getting that last book out, it had a long journey, but in the end, I found out I really like making books almost as much as writing them. So I have a little small venture where I've been helping some other people who have no interest in self-publishing, and so I have a little venture. I want to learn more about covers because we were hiring them out, but I've got my nerve up and made 2 or 3 of my own, and it was really fun, and I'd like to learn more.
That's fantastic. Welcome, Roxy. We're glad to have you here.
Well, thank you for having us. I was real excited to see this topic.
And the next meeting will be out at the north side of Tulsa. There's Oklahoma State University has a room out there. We'll get the address and the map for you so that you can come and join us and meet us in person, and maybe find out we're not as handsome as we are, on screen, but we do our best. Any brags? Does anybody have anything that they want to? Okay, Rex.
Speak for yourself about that not being as handsome in person as on screen. My book, Moon of Black Hearts, came live on Amazon this weekend, so it's for sale now.
All right.
And it's ebook this weekend, and the print book uploaded and is on sale as of this morning. Speaking of historical fiction.
Fantastic. That's
So everybody
awesome.
go out and buy a copy and put in a good review for me.
That's the most important thing, is that good review.
Congratulations, Rex. I wanted to brag that I had 9,000 views to my website last month. I write a weekly historic story for my Hannibal, Missouri newspaper. And, the hits just keep growing up. My website has all my stories on it, and people get looking at old stories, but 9,000 hits in a month was pretty impressive to me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's my brag. That equates to $0, but this is a brag session, right?
Well,
They
Rex, I
can't
tell
tell
you,
anything if they don't look.
That's right.
I don't have a brag, but I'll tell you something that is writing related that happened to me. I tell you, give that. I got an email from this lady, and she said that she was, I think she was somewhere on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, somewhere over there. So she wrote me a letter, an email, and she said that she had just had a psychic reading, and the psychic told her that she wasn't actually from Earth, that she was instead a citizen of a planet called Shalimar. And so she Googled Shalimar. And if any of y'all have ever read any of my sci-fi, the main planet in my sci-fi series is called Shalimar. That's the name of the planet that my sci-fi series. And so she sent me an email, and she said that this psychic told her that she was from Shalimar, and she wanted to know if I could tell her how to get home. Yeah.
Did you?
Could
Yeah.
you?
Well, I'll tell you how it came up with the name of Shalimar is this guy that I used to write books with. He always came up with the names for the planets and cities and stuff like that. And so a long time ago, this was our first book, and his wife had a bottle of perfume on her nightstand, and it was Shalimar brand perfume. And so we named our main planet Shalimar. And but she Googled the word Shalimar and came up with me because of the first book in the Galactic Axis series. Yeah, that's funny. Don't make any sense, but it is has nothing to do with this meeting. But any case,
Does she
I'm
from the
gonna shut
planet
up.
of a perfume?
Huh?
She's from the planet of a perfume.
Yeah, we named the planet after this perfume. I don't know if it stinks or not. It probably does. All right. I'm gonna shut up now.
I think you may have probably gotten some sales or will in the future when she starts buying them to try to find out more about her planet.
I hope she does. I could do all
I
the
think I think you will. I think you've probably got some book sales out of it.
I hope so.
That's awesome. Any other brags? Well, tonight we would like to welcome Casey Cowan as our speaker. He is the co-founder and president and CEO of OGMA Creative Media. And if you don't know who OGMA is, it is the Irish god of law, of letters, of reading, of the arts, all kinds of things. It's a mid-sized, award-winning independent publishing firm. It's in contrast to most publishers, however, he doesn't come from an editorial side of the aisle. His expertise is on graphic design. And we had the privilege of watching this presentation at the OWFI conference this last year, and it was so outstanding that we went ahead and pitched with him our book, and he picked us up. So he's easily persuaded.
Well, that extra $200 you slipped me kind of helped, you know.
So he's very interested in history. He just went this last summer all over to Civil War battlefields and just had an absolute blast. I loved reading his journal on Facebook on that. It was really a lot of fun watching him do that. It does not surprise me that he's writing in the historical vein. Tarleton's Quarter is one of them from the Revolutionary War period, and then he's got one following the called Johnny Reb, following the 6th Arkansas. And of course, he has his Western outlet since he is the editor of Saddlebag Dispatches.
Saddlebag Dispatches. I'm actually
Saddlebag Dispatches. And so
I'm
he's got
actually the
a
owner. So we have another publisher and editor. I'm more the owner and the art director. So sorry.
not a problem. Anyway, without any further ado, Casey Cowan.
So Casey, give me a second here while I make you host. And then
Okay.
you can set your screen how you want. Right now I've got it on speaker view. So give me a second here. I'm gonna mute.
Wasn't intentional.
Well, thanks a lot for that, Merle. And sorry I interrupted you there.
Oh, you're fine.
And let me see if I can get my presentation going. Bear with me here for just a second while I share my screen. All right, can you see the presentation?
Mhm.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. All right, so this is, those aren't even your judgy pants, the foundations of book cover design. As Merle told you all, I'm the co-founder, president, and CEO of OGMA Creative Media. I have About 25 years of professional experience as a graphic designer and a photographer. I've designed everything from newspapers, and that's including advertising and the flag and everything else, and pages, magazines like Saddlebag Dispatches, phone books, advertising, anything that an advertising agency does, large scale printing firms. For instance, I've designed tickets for the Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers. The first year that the Houston Texans and the NFL were in the league, I designed their tickets. I've done billboards, I've done signs, and I've done over 250 books inside and out, covers, interiors, and I do the entirety of Saddlebag Dispatches magazine, which if you ever want to take a look at, go to saddlebagdispatches.com, and all of our issues are there. It's a Western interest magazine. We do both fiction and nonfiction. It comes out twice a year in July and December, and we're very proud of it. I co-founded it with my good friend and mentor, Dusty Richards, and we kind of continue it on in his memory. And I helped co-found Augment Creative Media in mid-2013. And since then, I'll get more on that in a minute. But since then, I'll give you a smattering of why I'm here talking to you about covers tonight. Here are just a few of the covers that I've done. Some of them are recent, some of them are early on. Tonight, I'm going to show you not only covers that I did long ago that I'm not proud of, but even the most recent covers that, as I have learned my craft, are much better than those early attempts. So you might recognize a few of the names there. John J. Dwyer is a big Oklahoma writer, and that's an award-winning book that he won a Will Rogers medallion for, Mustang, and the prequel also won a Will Rogers medallion. You will be hearing the name more, Anthony Wood. He's an upcoming historical writer who is absolutely excellent. Sierra Hotel, Kent McInnes is a historical writer out of Oklahoma City, and that was his first novel, Sierra Hotel. It's doing very well. Of course, Dusty Richards, and Cherokee Clay by Regina McLemore. She's out of Tahlequah Writers, and she's won multiple awards for Cherokee Clay, her first book, and that was a YA novel. So, as Merle told you, Augment Creative Media is an award-winning, independent, traditional mid-sized publisher. Actually, when you were talking about community and the Tulsa Night Riders and finding more community, our company actually grew out of a writing group here in Northwest Arkansas. Dusty Richards and Velda Brotherton had run the Northwest Arkansas Writers Workshop for 30 years. And I joined in 2013. And I quickly became aware of the life of a real author, and it's not Stephen King, it's not John Grisham, it's authors with less than stellar edited and published books who are basically traveling around the country selling books out of their trunk. The covers are not great, the interiors are not great, there's the lack of professional editing, so myself and several of my friends from this group decided that we were going to kind of take control, and I was going to use my design and advertising experience to help them out, and we were going to make a go at trying to be a marketing firm. That lasted for probably about 6 or 7 months. We were doing editing, we were doing covers, we were doing marketing, and I had a couple authors come to us and say, "Why aren't you publishing? We will give you books right now. If you start publishing." And so we ended up publishing our first 2 books in August of 2014, and we've done 200 plus since. Our catalog today includes 110 authors of all genres. We have both the Dusty Richards and the Harold Robbins catalogs. If you guys know, Harold Robbins was the big time bestseller, The Carpetbaggers and Never Loved a Stranger, things like that. We actually worked with his estate and we're republishing all of his bestsellers. We have 500 plus books under contract through the middle of the next decade. We started Saddlebag Dispatches. We've won 2 Western Writers of America Spur Awards. 9 Will Rogers medallions, 2 Peacemakers, and an IBPA Benjamin Franklin Award. A lot of people look at that and say, "Oh, well, you're a Western publisher." Well, no, we're a publisher of everything. We just, because of our association with Dusty Richards, we kind of got a jump start into the Western genre. So we do publish everything. So that's a bit about me and a bit about my company. So now we're going to jump into cover design. And you've heard the expression, never judge a book by its cover. And in 1944, the American Journal American Speech stated, you can't judge a book by its binding. That was the first time it was really ever mentioned in kind of that format. And a couple of years later, the phrase appeared in the murder mystery novel Murder in the Glass Room by Edward Wolff and Lester Fuller as you can never tell a book by its cover. However, it can be traced further back even than this to the 2nd century AD when Roman author Juvenal wrote in satires Fronti nulla fides, which roughly translates to those aren't even your judgy pants, Caesar, or toga. That's not your judgy toga. A book cover is at its most basic a visual form of written content. Your book will always be judged by its cover. That's the most basic rule. It's the first and most effective advertisement for your book. And you have about 3 seconds to grab their attention. You have to make them go, whoa, whether it's from the front cover, whether it's from the spine, whether it's from the back, whatever they happen to see, whether it's on a shelf or on a thumbnail on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever else they're looking, Goodreads. They're hooked by that visual stimuli first and foremost, whether it's color, whether it's type, whether it's the image. They won't pick up your book if the cover doesn't intrigue them. I mean, think about your last trip to the bookstore. Did you see lots of books out there that you're just kind of, you know, that happens a lot. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is how to evoke the feeling of the book instead of a specific scene or a specific character. Lots of people get hooked on, no, I have to have my character. I have to have someone who looks just like my character, or this has to be my exact setting, or something like that. You need to get the feeling of the book out there, whether it's a thriller, whether it's a historical romance, whether it's just historical. You need to give them a sense of the book itself rather than one specific thing from it. Going on the parts of the cover, you have to think of your image that you want on it. Illustrative versus photographic or typographic. Some covers have nothing but type on them. Some genres are better with illustrated covers. For instance, sci-fi and fantasy are known for having very beautifully illustrated covers. If you think back even to the novelizations of Star Wars, they had very beautifully painted covers. A lot of the romances that used to be done, that's where Fabio became famous, is that he would be painted, you know, in various states of undress with women. Today, a lot of that has pushed to photographic or turning photographic into a painting. Your genre, a lot of what goes into selecting the image will be dependent upon your genre. Color speaks to mood, which goes directly to the tone of your book and even genre. You also, depending on your market, will want to appeal to different audiences. Women prefer different colors than men. They prefer blues, purples, pastels. Men prefer the bolder, warmer colors. You know, machismo. Typography. Different type styles convey different ideas or the seriousness of your work. It needs to be readable. That's absolutely paramount, especially these days where so many people do their shopping on places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble. When that book pops up as a thumbnail, they have to be able to read it. Okay. If you write fiction, the size and stylization of your name is the first thing your audience will look for. So many people who self-publish are more intent on emphasizing the title of their book rather than the author name. That's opposite. And I'll get into this more here in a bit, but font choices should be crisp, bold, and high contrast, and even easy to read, even on that thumbnail. Do not, under any circumstances, choose fonts like Comic Sans, Marker Felt, or Papyrus for the cover of your book or the interior. That will turn people off immediately, and you will be judged as an amateur by doing that. And simplicity. Too many elements or too much text on a single cover can drown out your name and repel potential readers. Abide by the old KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. And this is actually probably one of my favorite covers that I've done in recent history. Dusty Richards passed away in 2018, and his writing partner, Velda Brotherton, this was in the midst of a polish and rewrite. She finished it up, and it's very seamless. You can't tell who is writing which part. And it's a beautiful story about a soldier who comes home from World War II with PTSD and finds his life turns upside down. And the blue-owned Colt represents his striving to get his life back in some sense of normalcy. So the key consideration in designing your book is always going to be your genre. That will dictate the images that you use, the types of images that you use, the typography, the color, the brightness, even the size of your name as the author. All of these elements, you'll combine them to capture a potential reader's attention. And like I said, you have less than 3 seconds in general to do that, whether it's online or in a bookstore or even in a library. I also really like this cover, primarily because I'm a military history nut. I was an Air Force brat growing up, and my uncle was a naval aviator. So this is about Vietnam and a stateside pilot trainer. And so the chance to actually do airplanes in a book cover was really exciting for me. So where do you start with doing this design? Where do you start with finding images? Research. That's the most important place to start. You want to go to any of the major retailers out there, the library, advertisements, and you want to start looking at what the covers look like in your genre. Pick out, if you're horror, go look at Stephen King. If you're legal, go look at John Grisham. Historical, go look at the Sharks series novels, for instance. But find the best sellers in your genre and go look at what their covers look like. This is kind of 3 different looks at James Dashner's Maze Runner series that were all put out there. I think one was hardcover, one was paperback, and one was ebook. They don't typically have 3 different covers for each one of those, but they all appeal to a slightly different group out there. The top is completely illustrated, and those were probably the hardcovers. The Scorch Trials, the Death Cure, the 3 on the bottom, sorry, are more likely ebooks, with the ones in the middle as paperback covers. And each one of those is, as I said, going to appeal to a different market. Younger readers teen readers are probably going to be more interested in the covers on the bottom and on the top. Collectors are going to be interested in the ones on the top. So this is, and plus every cover that you do will go through iterations. You'll come up with one, and then you might come up with something that is a whole lot better that you might want to use for a different format. And I'll go into that here in a little while too. Show you some of the iterations of how I get to my final covers. So let's look at foundational concepts now. Illustration versus photographic. Now, I told you I was going to show you some covers that I'd done before and some that I'd redone because I thought they were much better and I learned more about it. In this first one, I did a photographic illustration for it, and I really a photographic image, and I actually pieced 2 images together, the background image and this monster up front. The problem is that once the book came out, it was the cover was so dark that you could hardly see the monster on it, and I could tell it was photoshopped on there. And I hate when I can look at a cover and say, "Oh yeah, that's been photoshopped. That's not organic." You could tell that by a difference in lighting, a difference in how a figure like the monster is cut out of the background, if it's done sloppy, if it's done well, if things are blurred against each other in a way that you could tell. And I was looking at that going, oh man, I could have done so much better. So I decided to go with an illustrated image on my redo, and this is like a doomsday monster type book. So I went with an illustrated cover on the right for my second attempt, and it came out, and I thought it was much better, and it's sold better since. This is actually not a better, or this is actually two novels by the same author, who it just the subject matter lent itself to two different kinds of covers here. Friends Call Me Bat is a kind of a biographical book. It's told from Bat Masterson's point of view about his history, and it's very well done. And really, you don't have a lot of illustrations of Bat Masterson. Really, you have old photographs primarily. So I picked the one that I thought would best illustrate him, and went with that as the basis for my main cover image. And of course, you know, Bat Masterson was quite the gunfighter, so I had to have his 6-shooter in the background there. Whereas Sycamore Promises, which was a novel of the Civil War in Kansas and Missouri, that really did lend itself more to an illustrated cover. So I found a public domain image, an etching that was done in 1868, and I kind of colored it the way I wanted, and then combined it with this border and this background and the typography for it. So these are both historical, but since they're kind of two different subject matters and told from two different points of view, that's kind of why the difference between the two. Mood and color. Now, in this one, I will be talking more about kind of, you know, looking for your audience. This is Beyond the Moon on the left is the first book that one of the first covers that I ever did. I went out and I took a photograph of the lake. I had the moon, I had the Soldier's Cross, and this is a mainstream novel about a Vietnam era prisoner of war who comes back to the United States after 9 years in captivity. And this is kind of his struggle to find normalcy again with a woman who starts out as his art instructor and then eventually becomes his wife. And so I was trying to go very literal with that title that first time out. And what I came up with was much darker than it needed to be. And it emphasized the title more than the author. Also, this is kind of a mainstream romance, and those aren't colors that lend themselves to mainstream romance, and neither is the imagery. So when I set about redoing it, I wanted to appeal to a female audience. So I went with different colors and a softer image that more represented the idea that the main character was trying to find the light in the darkness. I emphasized Velda's name much more clearly than I did in the last one, and I de-emphasized the title. And what I came up with when it came out, I mean, there were rave reviews, and the book ended up selling 10 times better than with the original cover. So trust me when I say that a cover can make all the difference when you're looking at sales and distribution. The one on the right, people want to put in libraries, people want to put on bookshelves. The one on the left, not so much. So the difference between these two, I could see my evolution as a designer, a cover designer, really brought to light right there. This is another one of those. Actually, I didn't design the first one. That was with another publishing company when it first came out. When we got the book and we changed the name, the author wanted the same image, which she had paid another graphic designer to do. I just tweaked it to make it a little bit more appealing to the eye. This is a literary Western. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And I wanted to come out that this was a book about heart and soul. I keep going back to, this is a book about a soldier who has PTSD and is trying to find himself in the darkness. Yeah, we've done several books like that, and they're all excellent. This is another one of those. A Civil War soldier who has gone out west and is a circuit preacher who rides around teaching the gospel, and then when he gets mad, he kills guys, and he has interludes with all the pretty women and everything, and he's basically trying to find his own way because he's having problems with God. And it is an absolutely excellent book. But I think that the imagery and the colors really reach out and grab you more so than the one on the left. So, as I said, papyrus is a definite no-no. If you want to display professionalism, do not use papyrus or Comic Sans or marker felt. Can you hear me okay again? Okay. And this is kind of an example of that. Noisy Creek is another one of the first one novels that I did a cover for, and I was trying to go minimalistic, but and it was all right. I liked the imagery, but I didn't think that my use of typography came out like I wanted it to. Once again, I emphasized the title more than I did the author name, and that's a no-no, especially in novels. And it wasn't as readable as I wanted it to be. So it also did not reflect that this is a kind of a fun romantic romp. And I wanted to, do something more professional. So I redid it. I emphasized the author name more, and I tried to choose a type that reflected the spirit of the book more than the first one. So, I think I accomplished that on that. This is another one where I was trying to let my design skills run wild, so to speak. And I thought, oh, this is kind of a horror book. So yeah, I'm going to choose this font that it's really cool, but it's really hard to read, especially on thumbnails. And once again, I made the author name too small. That was a big lesson that I had to learn along the way. So the left is my first attempt, and then even using the same kind of artwork, the right is my attempt after I learned my craft some more, and I went looking on from New York titles, and I shamelessly stole a style that I saw, and even the color was somewhat different in that green was hard to reproduce. It did not come out neon like I wanted it to. So in this, the main character struggles with the thought that she's insane, and yellow is the color that's most associated with insanity. So I made sure that my typography stood out and large enough and in contrast so that you could read it no matter how small it was on a thumbnail. And especially when you got it on a shelf and looked at that front cover, it jumped out at you. Simplicity. Keep it simple, stupid. That's another real big concept that I had to learn myself. For instance, here on the left is this is a political parody about a game show to choose the president of the United States rather than an election. The first one I actually did not design. I had another designer come in and do it for this, and he went with busy. There's just too much going on here. Too many different people on here, too many signs, too much text, and print failed to the chief across the top. He was going for a cool effect, but it didn't reproduce well. So when it came time to look at the idea of re-releasing it with another cover, I went for something remarkably simple, but at the same time very evocative of what we're talking about, which is our political system turned upside down. Lincoln is a great emblem of our political system. So there he is. Worked really hard to make sure that you can read the author name no matter what. Same thing with the title. And then the color, I think, is far more appealing than what we have on the left. Here's another one by, I don't know if you guys know John Biggs out of the Oklahoma City Writers. This is a literary book about the end of the world in Oklahoma. And I was trying to go for really kind of artistic and bohemian on my first cover on the left, but you can hardly read the author name, and you can even have problems reading the title name. It really doesn't go well. So on the one on the right, the re-release, I tried to turn that up on its head to make sure that you could read both very easily, and still get a sense of, what the book was about. Now, in genre fiction, now that we're beyond foundational concepts, let's figure out how to apply it. In genre fiction, the author name is always going to be your central focus, okay? Because when readers are going out there looking for fiction, they don't look for title names. They're looking for their favorite authors. I mean, think about it. You could have a blank cover, and if Craig Johnson's name is on it, people are gonna buy it. Stephen King's name is on it, people are gonna buy it. Joe Hill. Take your pick. Any of your major J.D. Robb, any of your major authors, that's the case. They go looking for their specific author. Therefore, the author's name is the biggest thing that needs to be identifiable, whether it's large, whether it's the brightest color, anything. So you could tell a lot of people don't take this to heart when you see one image and you see that the main focus of the entire cover is that title. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure, even if you're not New York published, and I've had people come to me and say, I don't want my name so big on my cover. It needs to be the title that's emphasized. And I'm like, no, even if you're not published or a big author, quote unquote, people are going to look for a book by your name. So your title is always going to be secondary after your name. Some genres, sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, and romance, besides your name, they're going to they're going to want to see a very cool illustration-based cover. Think of Lord of the Rings. Think of, as I mentioned earlier, the Star Wars novelizations. That's going to be another important part of theirs. Here are some looks at genre covers that I've done. The top left is obviously a classic Western. I was trying to evoke the old Louis L'Amour paperback. And a lot of stuff like that, you could pick up public domain artwork from artists like Remington and Church and really kind of big ones like that and use them. And that helps matters immensely, because if you look for art, especially in a Western, most of the art that you find on stock art accounts are cheesy in the extreme. And that's not something that you want to go and put on your cover if you want to be a serious author. Velda Brotherton's Mask of the Rising Moon is a romantic suspense. So I was looking for artwork that talked that spoke to the romance reader, but still was kind of dark enough. We call Velda sexy, dark, and gritty. So I was really going for a cover that reflected that. And all of her Poe mysteries, which is a series of 6 books, they all have that raven up on it. So I want to make sure to include that. Juanita Humphrey, Only a Moment Ago, is a sweet romance. So I was looking for an image that was originally a photograph that I reworked to look more painterly. And it speaks to the entire theme of that novel, which is fairy tale love almost in France. Mike Farmer's The Odyssey of Geronimo, that is an excellent historical novel focused on Geronimo's time as a prisoner of war. It deals with his death. So I found a photograph of Geronimo as a very old man and kind of thinking back to his wilder days. And trying to evoke the idea of the Southwest, the feeling of the Southwest, the feeling of, the old man looking back over his life. Gordon Bonnet, Room for Wrath, on the lower left. That is a kind of a lighthearted mystery. Paul Colt's Grasshoppers in Summer is a historical novel about basically the Indian Wars leading up to the Custer Massacre. Richard Massey's Southampton Chronicle is medieval in time frame, and it has to do with a wine merchant in the 1300s who travels throughout England and records his activities. And so I was looking for something that old leather, old designs of medieval cathedrals, and that seal in the middle. Bleeding Heart is also a romantic suspense for the New Age genre. So I was looking for something that would show movement and intensity at the same time, having both a male and female character on the cover kind of goes to the romance element for it. Literary fiction. This one's a little bit different than genre fiction. Literary looks for a specific audience, and the title and image should be the central focus. They're based more upon social, political, philosophical commentary. So that needs to be your real focus on it. It can be extremely hard to find an image that really kind of evokes what the story is about. This one was hard because it's about a woman who suffers from lobe uh, frontal lobe epilepsy and becomes hyper religious and believes she's told by God to kill her children, and it's her descent from being sane to total insanity. So I was looking for something that could evoke that religiosity and also reflect the title. Um, large amounts of blank or negative space. That is going to be another hallmark of literary covers. And I'll have time for questions here afterwards if you have any genre specific or anything like that. This is my iterations of a concept for a literary novel that the author and I had to work really hard to find, because art for something that is talking about kind of the journey of human identity is extremely hard to find. So we kind of went through a couple different ones, some that were more symbolic, like the flower, others that are a little bit more kind of leave it to the reader to figure out what you're looking at. The upside down lady who's kind of seen through condensation. Ultimately, we chose the one on the far right, looking in the mirror. So, and I liked one of the others better, but the author liked that one, so we ended up going with that because the author is always going to be the biggest champion of the book, and I want to make sure that any cover that I design, the author is ready to go out there and scream from the rooftops, "This is my book! It's the best thing since canned beer! Buy it! Buy it!" Because if they don't like the cover, they're not going to do it, and I've seen that happen, and it's horrible, especially with great books. Nonfiction. Nonfiction is a different game altogether. The title and the image should be the central focus. The author name can be secondary. Why? Because unlike genre fiction, nonfiction readers are buying books on based on subject matter rather than the author. They're not looking for a specific author unless it's someone big like who was Tom Brokaw and his The Greatest Generation. In cases where it's a big name, someone like that, or a biography by Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan, they're looking for what's this book about. They're looking for the subject. So in this one, for instance, this is about the journey of a mother in Nazi Germany trying to get her children out from under the Third Reich. She was in the bombing of Bremen with her children and escaped, and then had to get back to Bremen. And well, obviously there's the title. So I found an image of the actual remains of Bremen after it had been bombed. And then I found this kind of dark, mysterious, vaguely haunting road, and kind of put them together. And then the eyes in the background are actually a picture of the mother herself who was in the story. So I really went in on the image to evoke exactly what this story was about, and then I tried to focus in more on the title rather than the author name. These are some more nonfiction that I've done. Some of them are textbooks, the learning centers in the 21st century. One is a book of essays on educational systems, spitballs from the back row. But that one needed to be kind of cute and alluring because, who wants to read essays from a guy nobody knows? So you kind of got to bring people in with that cover imagery. Chet Dixon, a poetry collection, Affection's Not Sleeping, and that's actually Chet on the cover. I've got 2 covers of Saddlebag Dispatches. These are 2 of my favorites that we've done. And then the Oklahomans, Volume 1, using art from an artist in Durant, Oklahoma, as the image for a textbook that has actually sold very well, and it won a Will Rogers medallion for it. Now we get into young adult fiction. Um, Title and imagery are more important, especially to kids. Teens and tweens aren't really interested in the author in most cases. They're interested in what the story is going to be. Once again, you really have to look at the market, and you have to connect to those younger readers on a visceral level. In many cases, the imagery will be either illustrated or startlingly simple. If you think back to Twilight, Twilight had one central image on every front cover, and then the title. The key with these is emotional connection. Lucid Design is actually our IBPA Silver Medal winner, Benjamin Franklin Award, and it is about a 16-year-old girl whose body produces a hormone called lucidin that has become the new drug of choice on the streets. And she is a genetic anomaly, and so she ends up kind of in this chase for people who want her to basically produce this on the black market. And so it was heavy on the science, heavy on the genetic side of it, with her caught up in the middle of this big conspiracy, criminal cartel type thing. And so we wanted something that could show, she's in the midst of this. She's afraid of drowning. That was one of the big fears of the character. So we wanted to kind of put all this together, and I think we did a fairly good job. These are some more young adult titles. Here is actually 3 of the 4 for the Lucid series. And we stuck with that, with the girl kind of as a logo, but put in some of her adventures. She's in Rome in the 2nd book. She's in Greece in the 3rd book. And then across the top, Cherokee Clay and Cherokee Stone. This is Regina McLemore's stories about women and her family by generation coming from the Trail of Tears all the way forward to the 20th century. And birds have particular significance in the stories and to the Cherokee people. So we wanted to focus on those birds as our iconic image. And she's got one more coming out, Cherokee Steel, that will be in July. Children's fiction, entirely different than anything for adults. These covers need to be fun. They need to be adorable. They're 99% of the time they're illustrated. The imagery needs to be bright and bold, and it needs to be easy to read, especially for youngsters. Your title and main character should be the primary focal points. Author and illustrator names are secondary. Extraneous information needs to be banished to the back cover. This is Winston's Words of Wisdom. I don't know if any of you have met Linda Apple. She's a former president of OWFI and the Ozark Creative Writers. But she has her Scotty dog that she has created illustrated adventures for. This is a middle grade book. She also does illustrated children's books with the same illustrator. And this was our first look at Winston. And the interior has matching illustrations for every chapter. And she's seen a lot of success with this. Winston is immensely popular with school-age children, especially when she takes him to schools and they see the real Winston, and he's a real winner there. Here's some of our illustrated children's books that follow these rules. Critter Invasion by Clarissa Willis. Fred Finds a Forever Home by Winnie Watson, which is actually up in one of the contests for OWFI this year. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, A First for Gus, which is about a shelter dog that is taken by Santa and given a new home on Christmas Eve. Ray and the Magic Amulet by Ollie Hupo, and Lintaka by Jonathan Bow. Once again, we're talking about bright colors, big fonts. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas is a little bit of an outlier on that, just because we needed something that said Christmas. But clear to read, easy to read for the children especially. So cohesive branding, building on the foundation. Now this is when we talk about series. Across the top is a forthcoming series from Anthony Wood. His first book came out last year, White and Black. Then once we had this one designed, we played up on that theme for the rest of the books in the series. And actually, these are just the first 5. He has 2 more that are following. But we kept the series brand across the bottom. It's obviously a Civil War series. We picked art that was appropriate from the time period. The reason that we picked alternating colors was because book 2 and book 4 have a lot more actual Civil War combat in them. So we tried to find battle paintings that were appropriate to those battles. I hate to say that I impress even myself, but I really like what I came up with for this. This is probably one of my favorite series of covers that I've ever done. Here in the bottom, we've recently rebranded our Dusty Richards Brand Iron series into something that was way more evocative of a classic Western. We changed colors with each title. We try to find art that speaks to what that particular book is about and make it more painterly. Sometimes we can find a painting, sometimes we can't, and we have to, get into Photoshop and do some stuff to it. But generally, this has been far more successful than my earliest covers for these, which I shudder to even show anybody. Here's another look at 2 more groups that we've done. Here along the bottom, Velda's Twist of Poe series, which I mentioned earlier, changed the color for each title, but kept the theme going with not only the Raven in all of them, but with her name and the style of all of the titles. And then I found art that I was able to match the same two models for each book, which is kind of, it's not absolutely vital, but it is kind of cool to be able to do that with an entire series. And then across the top, we have Harold Robbins bestsellers. And Harold Robbins is known as the man who invented sex. So all of his covers need to be kind of racy and appeal to that crowd. And women are a key point in that. So we tried to find art that could push the envelope to what is generally acceptable, like he did. So to review parts of your cover: image, illustrative versus photographic versus typographic; color, speaking to mood, genre, and tone, depending on what market you're going for; typography, crisp, bold, high contrast, easy to read, even on a thumbnail; simplicity, not too many elements. On this one, this is actually one that hasn't come out yet. This is one that I just designed last week. It's about a psychic espionage agency. It's kind of bridges the line between thriller and horror. So we were looking for something that kind of gave the movement, thriller, intensity, and then the final touch after I found the city and the eyes was the lightning, and that was not in the original concept for it, but I wanted something that kind of went with the title, just icing on the cake, so to speak. And congratulations, by the powers vested in me by Princess Judgy Poo, my granddaughter Amara, I now officially certify each of you to wear your judgy pants with pride. Go forth and design with confidence. So that's the bulk of my presentation. Sorry for the technical issues there with the SNL skit, but I hope I taught you all a little bit about what I do and my theories and methods to designing covers. And if I'm open for questions, anything, hit me.
You'll have to unmute your microphones if you're going to ask a question.
Hey, Casey, where do you get your stock art and do you pay for it?
In many cases, I pay for it. My 2 main accounts are Adobe Stock and iStock Photo. I used to do Shutterstock, but the difference is Shutterstock allows you only 10 images a month and they don't roll over. So you have to use those 10 or they're wasted. You've wasted your money for the month. Adobe Stock and iStock, they both roll over. So I've got like 60 or 70 saved up on both of them. So they're there when I need them. Sometimes though, I also am able to find free art because I'm a photographer. There are a couple of free art places. One is called unsplash.com. That you can use without having to pay royalties or anything for it. And if you go back and look for especially painted art or photographs prior to 1926, those are public domain. So you can use them, adapt them as you want to, but especially on painter stuff like I use for my for some of my historical and Western. I always credit the painter and give the title and the year on the copyright page, just to make sure that those are there, because some of these painters, Remington, for instance, was awesome, and being able to use that kind of artwork is a privilege.
But what about, like I was looking at an image the other day that I really liked, and it was, I think it was a lithograph for sale on eBay.
It depends on when it was done. If the etching that I showed you on the book Sycamore Promises, that was done in 1868, and I had to dig deep to find it. If you look at some places like, not eBay, but Fine Art America, things like that, they take public domain images and put them up for sale. Generally, if they're up somewhere like that, they're available in the public domain. However, in most cases, if they're after 1926, that you can't use them without paying for them, or unless the artist allows you to do so. We've had a couple of places where I've had people illustrate or paint art for covers, in which case, they sign over the rights to it for you to use.
But if I'm getting the image off of the internet, off of like Fine Art America, and it's an old image, you mean if they have it up for sale, it's probably in the public domain?
Yes, in the public domain. A lot you'll see on there are new artists who are doing like Western and Civil War type era paintings, and you'll be able to tell immediately, especially by the cost, that's not an artist that you can use their work. And if you do, they'd sue your pants off for it. So and require you to take it down. So generally with Fine Art America, these are companies that have no connection with artists and so forth, and they specifically pick up whether it's Rembrandt or Michelangelo or Remington or something like that. They pick it up and they make money off it. Just like as a publisher, I could pick up now Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes mysteries because it's in the public domain, and I can republish it. So
But if I'm copying off of them, if I'm taking it off of their website though,
in general, you'll be safe, but you need to find out what the title and the artist is, and make sure that you're safe, so that if they get nailed for it, you don't get nailed for it in turn.
okay, thank you. That's helpful to me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. You're talking about public domain. If you do have an artist, paint something for me, or let's just say that I publish through you and you design my my cover. What's normal for the rights to that cover? I mean, as an author, after so much time, I get the rights back to my book. Does the cover go with that, or is that something different?
No, it does not. The cover belongs to the publishing company. Usually when an author takes their rights, they don't usually ask for the cover too. However, we have in our contract a clause where we could negotiate a price for the cover. Standards around $500. And it is important though that if you do buy a cover like that and reuse it, that you make sure to give credit. Cover design by. If you look on all of our OGMA books in general, because I'm usually the only one that designs the covers, on the back it will say cover design by KCW Cowan, and then if it's illustrated, whether it's by a 19th century painter or by one of my illustrators, it will also say cover illustration by. Credit is always an important thing. So.
I have a question related to that. You said the standard is about $500. Is that the design fee or the subsequent use of that image? So that, say you design it, is that one separate fee, and then if they want the rights, it's the additional $500? Is that how that works?
No. We're a traditional publisher, so we don't charge our authors for any of our services.
Okay.
If I'm doing something freelance, I usually charge about $1,500 for the cover fee.
Okay.
with my portfolio and my experience, I can support that. But with an author taking cover after 5 years, 7 years, something like that, that's just the continued use of it. No royalties attached to it. That's just a flat fee. As long as it's credited to me or to the company, that's basically the important thing right there.
And when it comes to designing those, I know that Amazon has their templates available for different sizes with measurements and things like that. Are they pretty, I mean, do their standards match most of the other standards, or do templates vary based on, I mean, you said you do your own publishing, so I'm assuming you have your own templates.
Well, actually, the templates vary depending on, of course, like you said, the size
Pages.
and the
Mhm.
number of pages. Now, they'll have theirs and you'll see they have how much safe space that you have and how much bleed you need for the color and everything to go off the page. Those are all pretty well standard. Now, we publish through Lightning Source rather than Amazon, and Lightning Source is the publishing arm of Ingram Distribution. So I actually, when we get templates for all the books from there, it could depend on the number of pages or the type of paper that I choose, and I can do multiple different sizes and everything too. They have slightly more exacting standards than KDP does, that I have to include in everything. But fairly well, when you're designing a wraparound cover or a dust jacket, there are standards for that. If you're doing just a front, you just need to make sure that you're usually about 1/4 of an inch from any edge, to make sure that things don't go off one side or something like that. But yes, those are fairly well standard.
Casey, I have more of a technical question. I have an author that I'm working on a cover, and he's asked for a specific blue. He wants blue in the lettering on his title. And when I'm uploading it to KDP, I get my proof back. It's a purplish color. And I've gone through their help situation, and they say I need to use CMYK, I think.
Yeah.
I'm missing a color there.
No,
But
you're right. CMYK is the proper.
okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, I've tried to upload it as a PDF file, as a JPEG. I've created it, and I keep getting variations, and my author is a stickler. It's got to be this certain color, and I'm not sure what to do.
You're never going to get that with print on demand.
Thank you. I want to
That's
tell him that so bad.
that is the key point.
Yep.
In one of the children's books that I had, Lynn Taka, my author was just completely upset that these images are too yellow, and they vary with every copy that are printed. Unfortunately, when I did sports tickets, I was working for a large printing company, and they had a 4-color press, and then they could add spot colors in there, which are specific, Pantone shades that you could get there, that exact blue that you're looking for. Okay. Now I could go out there and I could do press checks to make sure that they were correct. And those particular areas, when they would print the 4 colors, the CMYK, those would be left blank in favor of the spot color that would then come later. Okay. However, print on demand technology is not like that at all. Print on demand is basically a large color laser printer. Okay. And we design typically in Photoshop in RGB, which looks the best on digital outlets, and will look the best for your thumbnails on Amazon and so forth. But when you upload, even using your conversion from RGB to CMYK, even putting it and not including a profile, a certain profile like with Lightning Source, when you upload that, every time the values are going to be slightly different because the ink coverage is going to be slightly different. The toner cartridges are going to be slightly different, and there's absolutely nothing that you as a designer can do about that. And I've had to explain that to that author that I was talking about, and they just don't seem to understand. No, you have to make it. I can't. I don't have control of that because I can't go do a press check, and I can't do it with every book that's printed on a print on demand file. There's no way that's ever going to happen.
Thank you. That really helps me have some ammunition when I talk to him. I've also told him it's a very automated process and there's not somebody that's actually standing there watching everything come out. It's so hopefully I can convince him to let's try something a little different. Thank you very much, Casey. Appreciate
Well,
that.
and add to that too, those color profiles. There's different, some of them are better for print, some of them are better for digital, and they don't always coordinate well. You're going to have one that's going to have a different look digitally on your screen, and that also deals with your color calibration on your screen versus there are so many different things when it comes to dealing with those colors that don't translate as well between the digital format and what you're getting back in print.
Yes. Thank you both.
Lightning Source actually has us when we upload PDFs to them, they request that we don't include color profiles at all. And some of the hardest to do are blues that don't come out as purple. I love neon green, but it always comes out as kind of a puke green instead. So I mean, those are colors that are really hard, especially those tertiary colors. Primary colors usually work fairly well, but
I have a question. In your opinion, what's a decent interval to wait before you reissue a cover? Like how often do you refresh? Or is that a case
well,
by case basis or?
yeah, sometimes it's a case by case basis. I'm a perfectionist, and I am one of those publishers who try to put my author first at all costs. And of course, this has caused me some headaches in the past. We've had to change a lot of our standard operating procedures because the inmates were trying to run the asylum, and that makes things even harder. But when I look back at the covers that I did originally, and this drives my wife, who is my chief financial officer too, absolutely insane, is I'll look at those first covers and I'll say to myself, oh my God, I have to do better for my author. Okay. And I don't want those out. So sometimes I'd waited 18 months to 2 years. Sometimes it was 3 or 4 years, but I decided I was going to go back and I was going to do every one of those and make it right by my authors. And my wife was like, it's time to move forward. You need to give up on doing this. Thankfully, I managed to get pretty much all of the ones I wanted to do done. But like I said, I really put stock in when my authors put their trust in me, it's my responsibility to give them the most professional book that I can. And especially those original ones. And those original ones were people who are still some of my best friends and people who I started out with. And it's like, okay, they put their trust in me when nobody knew who I was. I want to do right by them. So sometimes it was a small time, a small amount of time. Sometimes it was much longer, but
Okay, well, I'm very new at this, but one of my rookie mistakes was I let somebody, he just had to have this custom art, this sketch on his picture that his friend, never again, never again. And I'm telling everyone else, I'll just say, I'll run a few options by you, but you leave the cover to me because they don't want what they think they want.
that's exactly that. That's exactly it. But telling them that in such a way is difficult, and making
Yes.
it and not making it sound. I used to work with a girl who she had and I'm not up on college graphic design degrees because you don't learn how to design for a press or how something is going to come out and look like in print. You learn stuff like art history and art standards and stuff like that. And so it's like, I'm the artist. I know what you need. Okay. There are times where you can say that, especially when you're selling something and the marketing and everything. And there are times when you're just being snooty. And I don't want to be snooty. This is a thing about there are standards in the industry, and this is what we need to do, especially from a sales standpoint. So there's a sentence in my contract, in our contract, that says publisher is the final authority on what goes out in the cover. And usually there's a compromise process that goes out. If they really don't like something, then I'll go back and try to redo it because I want them to be happy with it. If they're not going to be out there selling the book. So you kind of have to
I
strike
just
balance.
plead ignorance and I say, I'm sorry, I just don't know how to make an amateur sketch look, or not amateur, but a sketch look good. I just don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. So far it's worked.
Well, I can't use an excuse like that anymore, unfortunately. So
No, you can't. You're trying to be more professional, but I'm just saying, I'm just trying to be the friend who's helping.
anyone else?
I think I'm gonna have to come pay you a visit.
If you're in Bentonville, come on. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. If any of you want it, my email address is Casey at ogmacreative.com, OGHMA creative.com. It might take me a couple days to answer. I write in such a way, and this includes emails. I think I am more articulate as a writer than I am a speaker. And so I want every sentence to be perfect. So I rewrite them 3 or 4 times each. So it usually takes me a while to get an email back, but I'll be happy to correspond with you. And before I turn things back over to Merle, I wanted to mention our website is still going up, but Ogma is actually hosting a novice writers boot camp in August. So the first week of August, we've got 3 days that we're going to go out to a lodge in Ponca, Arkansas. It's a beautiful place. It's just us, and we're going to be doing 2.5-day intensive of everything from plotting to character development to genre, which genre you're really in. And one-on-one interaction with expert editors. I'll be there and speaking. Clarissa Willis, my Young Dragons youth division publisher, will be there. Best-selling author Michael Farmer will be there and teaching. Super agent Amy Brewer of the Metamorphosis Agency will be there to give guidance. And my development director, George Clay Mitchell, will all be there. It's all inclusive, including lodging and food. And the early bird price is $800, and the price after May 15th is $950. So if any of you are interested, like I said, the website will be up later this week, early next. We've had some technical difficulties getting the right website link. It will be novelinkmedia.com. But in the meantime, if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, shoot me an email at the address that I just gave you, and I can give you more information on it.
Thank you very much, Casey. That was well done, as
Casey,
expected.
could you put me back as host there, Casey?
Sure thing. Let me get to it. Oh, if I can figure it out here.
The 3 dots on my picture, just hit host.
All right, cool. Make host.
Casey,
There
are
you go.
you judging the OWFI? Anything there in their contest?
Actually, we've done it for, I think, the last 4 years. We judge creme de la creme.
Okay.
And I might be there as well. I'm hoping to be.
Well, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you again. That was awesome. Lots of great information, and a topic we don't talk about as much as we probably should. Thank you. I think that's kind of our program for tonight. Any other input?
I think it did a good job. Great job.
Excellent job.
I'll get this recorded. When it's recorded, I'll get it saved and converted, and I'll put it over on our Facebook page and also on YouTube.
Just a reminder that next month on the 15th, we're going to be meeting at OSU campus at our room there. And we're going to be introducing the critique panel and how to do a critique. And if you want to bring some pages along with you, we can do we can do that after have your exchange critiques after the meeting. So good to see you all. You all have a great night.
Thank you.